Hello and welcome to another episode of a Runnin podcast, coming to you all the way from Kau, Hawaii, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. This is Clint, and welcome back for episode number 14. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing all right. It's been a pretty good week. Lots of cool things happening, and I'm happy to share those with everybody. Where to start? Where to begin? Well, my VO2 max went up to 56 today, so that's good. It's the simple things, I guess. But that was interesting to see after today's run. I've been kind of slacking off on my running for at least like the last week or two. I've been really busy with everything else, which is not a great excuse, but I have had to stop, kind of short of my regular 8-mile daily run and do only 5 because I've been kind of pressed for time several days this week and last week. The downside of that is, for me at least, I don't know if it's because the dip in training makes my legs weaker, or if I'm just falling apart because I'm aging. But if I do kind of take it easy for a week or two, I notice that I get knee pain, muscle pain, but I've got at least one knee that is kind of just in a permanent state of what would you call it? I wouldn't say injured, but it's in a permanent state of fussiness, because I don't ever know if it's gonna hurt or if it's gonna be nice, if it's gonna play nice. So usually if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm keeping my legs kind of conditioned and strong enough to keep the bone ends from kind of rubbing together, or at least that's what I think is happening. But if I'm keeping my quads strong enough by working them out every day, I usually don't have big issues. But like today, I was out and I actually did do my standard 8-miler. I was gonna do 5 again, but I decided that since I had been slacking off and I had nothing but time today, that I would just go for the full 8, and I'm glad I did. But I did have some knee issues, like on mile 3, I think. It was like between mile 3 and 4, which for my run down on Beach Road puts me like basically in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm basically at the lava flow at that point, and there's really not that many people around. There's definitely no help or services around. It's in the middle of, well, there are some like houses and neighborhoods nearby, but nowhere that I would really want to like go on somebody's property and knock on their door if something happened and there's no way I could make it back. I need to use a phone or something. So I guess I shouldn't be so whiny. It's like 4 miles away from my truck. I could always hobble back. But so the thing is, with whatever kind of knee pain I have, when it starts happening, I kind of can't walk, and it's not just because of the pain. It's it just does something weird. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just I'm not able to fully like flex um, that leg, so or that joint. It's kind of a weird pain. But yeah, I got through it. I just kept going, and eventually it subsided. I guess I didn't explain that well. So it's not that I can't keep running or can't keep walking, but it just like it's a sharp pain like at a certain point, like when the joint articulates. I'll get like a short, sharp, not short, but a sharp pain, like at a certain point. So it like kind of comes and goes, you know. So it's not that I can't run or walk, but it's like if I do, every time that joint articulates to a certain spot, it's gonna, shoot a pretty extreme pain up my leg. So it's running and walking prohibitive. But anyways, I hate to start this episode out complaining. I'm actually not complaining. It's a fact. That was one thing that I dealt with today, and it's my own fault because I should have been keeping up, with my training and all. And what am I training for? I call it training. It's not really training. I guess I'm training for life, but um, there's no races or anything right now. I'm signed up for ultra, but I don't know if it's gonna come to be. It was going to be on Mauna Kea, and so I talked to the race directors a couple of times, not very long, just briefly. But I guess there's a lot of issues with like trying to, get permits um, and all the things that go into an ultra. It's hard enough to race direct, an ultra just anywhere else, but Mauna Kea is especially. I don't want to say difficult, but there's a lot more things that have to be considered and permit wise, safety wise, keeping the landscape and plant and animal habitats intact. There's a lot more consideration than maybe like some other places. But anyways, I've gone all over the place in this short amount of time that I've been talking. But yeah, so I was going to do that ultra, and I will still do that ultra if it happens this year. I'm kind of sad that there hasn't been really anything to go to, but it's understandable, and I'm fine just doing my daily runs, and yeah, sorry, I had to yawn a little bit. It is evening time, and it's been a long day. It's been a good Friday, but I've packed a lot of work and my run, and I'm kind of like winding down, which I swore I would never do, but it was either not do the podcast, or wait for some other more opportune time that may never come, or just sit down and try to do one today. But yeah, so here we are, and you're listening to me ramble. Yeah, so other than my knee, great run today. I saw a couple of vehicles broken down, which is not unusual for beach road, but seeing multiple vehicles in different places was kind of something new. So it looked like by the time I turned back and started heading toward my truck, um, everybody was fixed up and back on the road again. So I don't know what those issues were, if it was just gas or a maintenance, something simple kind of issue. But there were a couple of vehicles being pushed off the road. But don't know. Like I say, I try to stay out of people's business, and they usually just stay out of mine. And it works pretty well that way. Nobody looked like they were desperate for help or anything. So I'm trying to think. There were a couple of things that were kind of nagging on me that I had not mentioned previously. So I guess I'll talk about a couple of things that are entirely unrelated, because hey, why not? I'm already on a streak of random ramblings. So there was one thing that I didn't mention last time, because it was a little bit more of a somber episode, and was dealing with a little bit more just in, I guess, personally, and the world still is falling apart. I believe, but it was all starting to fall apart. I think the last episode that I did, and so that initial shock, the gravity of it was a lot more. I've been able to have some, I guess, some more chipper moments between then and now. So although the world is still basically on fire, and everything kind of sucks, there's, I guess, a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's still little glints of good things, positive things that come through. But anyway, this is not a motivational speech, so let me shut up. Yeah, so one kind of cool thing that I did not talk about last time, but it was still a cool thing. I didn't feel like, last time I needed to be, sharing a bunch of like jovial stories or interesting factoids or whatever. It just wasn't the episode or the time or whatever to do that. But so I feel like for this one, we can kind of get a little bit back more to business as usual, because it's a good escape from all the other craziness. But so yeah, remember SpaceX launched a couple weeks ago. I don't know what date, but it was a couple weeks ago. And on the night, I guess, or on the day after, maybe it was the day of the launch, I was outside walking the dogs, and I always look up at the sky, because in Hawaii, we're in one of these places on Earth where there's very little light pollution, and that's very deliberate, but also there's just not that many lights. There's not that many people out here on the Big Island, so I always like. Point being, sorry, I could make the most simple statement into like a cliff notes for War and Peace. So I am looking up at the sky, because the sky is always clear in Hawaii. It's just no light pollution. I've already said that, but I digress. Looking up at the sky and looking at the stars, and I know some of the constellations. I don't know them all, but I kind of know the ones that are around Scorpio, and then also the ones that are around like the Pleiades and like Sirius and what's the main one? Orion, like that, those constellations. I kind of know those two, and big shout out to Imiloa Astronomy Center. Astronomy? Yeah, that's right. I always get astronomy and astrology mixed up. I don't get them mixed up as to what they are, but sometimes I use one word for the other. So definitely astronomy, definitely not astrology. Uh, but yeah, so I've been there enough times to Imiloa that I kind of have a little bit of knowledge on some of the constellations. But once again, I've gone down a crazy path, just rambling away, talking about myself, looking up at the sky, walking the dogs, enjoying the constellation. It was a little bit of a cloudy night, and I see something that looks like not like a plane. It didn't look like a plane. It sort of, I thought at first maybe it was a plane, but it was just too long to be a plane. Unless it was like super close. And then even then, like all I could see were lights, and I remember only seeing 3. So it kind of looked like a light at the front, a light in the middle, and a light at the back. It was sort of evenly spaced, and I couldn't really see any like fuselage or anything. So of course, I've watched enough Ancient Aliens and other Area 51 documentaries on Netflix to kind of appreciate that it's that it could be a UFO. I'm not really sure if UFOs exist. I'm not really sure it matters if I'm sure if UFOs exist. But for a split second, that's what I thought it was. And so I yelled for my wife, like at the top of my lungs. I was like, get out here now. And who knows what she thought had happened because she came rushing outside, and then of course my son came out too, and we're looking at this thing going through the sky, and I just could not explain to myself like what this thing was, because I'd never seen anything like it before, and I know I did a horrible job of describing it. So the sky was mostly clear, but there were clouds coming off the ocean, and they were kind of heading over Hawaii Island, going from California direction toward I guess Honolulu direction, if you will. So the clouds are rolling in off the ocean, and there's mostly clear spots, high elevation, but this thing comes through. It looked like it was coming through the clouds. Hindsight and Googling some stuff, it was probably well above the cloud ceiling. But I see these lights going through the sky. I yell for my wife, and she comes out. She comes running out, and my son comes out too. And we're looking at this thing, and we're all kind of like perplexed. We're not putting 2 and 2 together. The SpaceX launch was widely publicized, and of course, you probably figured out by now that that's what it was. It was, I forgot the name of the satellites, but it's called a something satellite train. So when they launch these things, they launch, multiple, like 30, 60 of them at a time. And so I guess what happens is they kind of spread out sort of evenly, but they move, like they orbit in sort of like a train. So it's just one after the other. So you see these things, and they just move at this constant rate of speed, and it's maybe slower than an airplane, but faster than, like a star, faster than something stationary. So to me, it looked like the lights moved across the sky going from, like Honolulu direction toward the ocean, which would be more California direction. It looked like, what did I say? It looked to me like it was going through the clouds, but it definitely wasn't. If it was satellites, it would have been well above the cloud ceiling, I believe. I think satellites definitely live like outside of the atmosphere. I could be wrong about that. I'm no Elon Musk. Uh, but yeah, so we sat there and talked amongst ourselves, and I remember telling my son asked, "What are we gonna tell people?" Or did he ask that? I don't remember, but somehow that came up, between the three of us, and I just was like, "You don't say anything to anybody because they're never gonna believe us." And so that was kind of fun. And then when we found out, after some Google searches and some Reddit posts and calling a friend and telling them about the mystery objects in the sky. So, kind of like after making a fool of myself a little bit, figured out that it was the SpaceX launch, and, all was well. That solved the mystery. And so I'm kind of bummed that it wasn't a UFO, but then I'm kind of glad. Sorry. I had to yawn. That's what happens when I'm sitting in my recliner after a long day and trying to do a podcast in a dimly lit room. It's a lethal combination. So, anyways, yeah, I'm trying to think. I need to start like writing stuff down before I do these, because I always have so many ideas for things to say, and then I get on here and I totally get lost. I meander everywhere, just talking about nonsense. But yeah, so some other cool things that are going on. I, with COVID and the school being closed, my son's been spending a lot of time at home, and a lot of that time he's been spending on the computer, and who knows how many YouTube videos he takes in per day. We try to get him to read and go outside and do other things as much as possible, and limit his computer time when we're around. But I mean, there's huge swaths of the day where it's anybody's guess how much time he's spending on the computer. Actually, I could go look if I really wanted to. I could get a summary of all his computer use, but I don't want to live in some Orwellian dystopia where I'm playing Big Brother to my son, watching his every move. He's pretty ethical, and he's watching puppy videos for sure. I can see everything that he watches because he's got my he's logged into Chrome with my account, so it also YouTube, he's logged in with my account, so I get like little notifications for all the stuff that he is watching. So that's kind of cool until he gets old enough and discovers that he can change that, and then that's no more. But yeah, I just contradicted myself and said that I shouldn't do that, but then I do get. It's just it's not by design. It's just that's the behavior of YouTube. It sends video suggestions and things like that. So I get little alerts on my phone whatever he's watching. So it's nice to kind of be able to monitor that because there's all kinds of crazy crap on the internet. But anyways, point being, I think he spends a lot of time on the computer, maybe too much time, and then he's getting of that age where like he's eating more and more, and so I'm not trying to fat shame the poor kid, but he is kind of getting a little bit what they used to call when I was a kid a husky, and so I've always been kind of on the heavy side, even when I'm running my butt off, I still don't get like that small. I'm still a pretty, I guess what they would call big boned person. Uh, yeah, I'm just thick, I guess. But so he's definitely inherited a little bit of that from me, and so he's kind of a husky boy. And on one level, that's okay because I think most kids do, or like some kids do get a little chunky around middle school age, and then it kind of sheds off, and then they hit their growth spurt, and it balances out like in their teenage years. And so it's not that I want to make him self-conscious or whatever, but he's getting a little bit uh, excessive body fat, a little bit. So I think he needs more exercise for sure. He's not getting, as much as he used to get when he was going to school and, having recess and going to after school programs and, like running club and playing soccer. So, yeah. Been thinking for a long time that I would love to have him with me when I go out on my runs, and so this kind of ties into what's happening now with him kind of getting a little bit of extra weight on. I think I hear a frog outside. I'm not sure. I keep hearing some kind of noise. It might be my phone vibrating too, but yeah. So I tell stories the worst. I'm the worst storyteller ever. Like I'm all over the place. So yeah. So for a long time, I've been on runs. I've thought, I wish that, my son was here or somebody. It's a shame, that I'm the only one getting to see this right now. No matter what it is, it could be, the looking at the ocean from, one of the ridges out in Volcano Park, or watching the sunset over, or is it over? Watching the sunset behind Mauna Loa, I guess would be the correct way to say that. Just whatever it is, out and about. When you run through places, I've mentioned this before, you're taking in so much more. Like there's so much, you're learning about landscapes that most people will probably never see. And it's amplified. You go through it so quickly, and then you go to another place, and then you go through there, and then you cover so much ground. It's not to say that like I'm an expert on Hawaii and all of its landscape. I've definitely got some hot spots that I hit up pretty often, but I would say out of the places that I go, I know down to like certain rocks. Like, oh, that's that rock. I've got, like a mile until I get to my truck or whatever. But yeah, so a lot of cool things to see in Hawaii, and sometimes I wish he was with me, and then sometimes I forget that all of the things that I've experienced from getting out and doing long runs around the countryside or Volcanoes Park or wherever, he's never seen 90% of that. And so we've had a couple of excursions. I took him to YPO. This was maybe like 2 years ago even. I took him to YPO Valley, and so when I say I took him to YPO Valley, like I took him into YPO Valley. We were gonna hike to Waimanu and actually camp. I had a permit, and we got to YPO Valley Lookout at like 4 p.m. on a Friday. And so we were going to hike in, just me and him, camp, and then hike back out like the next day. And so 4 p.m. was not a great time to get out, but a little bit of background on this. He had been having some issues with thinking that there was, some kind of something in the yard that was watching him, through his bedroom window, and it was freaking him out. And I think it was a figment of his imagination. I used to have the same kind of thoughts when I was a kid. A lot of scary basements and people living under the stairs or whatever, monsters and such, ghosts and this and that. And so I think he had a pretty healthy overactive imagination about whatever it was that was looking at him in the yard. And so it was kind of like a two-part thing. Like I had two goals for this excursion. Number one was to spend time with him, kind of get out and do something different, and show him a place that he had not seen before in a way that he had not done much, like hiking and such. So the other part of it was I wanted to kind of like break him of this idea that there's, scary things out to get him. And so I purposely set out at night to take this hike. In hindsight, I don't know if it was a great idea. Obviously, we're still here, but so we hiked in to YPO starting at like about 4 p.m. on a Friday, and the weather was fine. We made it across. There's kind of like a little, I don't know if it's a river or what, but there's a fast moving water that's going into the ocean, like fresh water that goes out into the ocean. So you gotta kind of, I say fast water, it's just water. It's moving. It's not like white water, like a class 5 or anything like that. But it is up to your shoulders sometimes, and you definitely have to carry the pack over your head as you cross over this thing. But we got down into YPO, we crossed over the stream, we crossed through the beach area. We saw a lot of cool things. I'm gonna abbreviate this story, sorry. We ended up getting up the other side of YPO and hiking more towards Waimanu. I think so it did start raining around 10 p.m. So we had been hiking since 4, and then it was 10. I think we had gone about 7 miles or so. We made it to the kind of, I guess it's like I don't know, I wouldn't say emergency shelter, but it's a shelter building. And I think once you get to that shelter building, there's about like 2 or 3 more miles before you get to Waimanu. And so what we did, because it was raining, we set up our tents inside of the shelter building and or underneath it, and then we cooked some food and ate and everything, and then we went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and we hiked back out. And so he was extremely thrilled and in awe of all the beautiful views and the trees, different parts of nature. And I kind of explained to him, people that sit on their couch, they never see this. People that go back to the truck because they're scared, they don't get to see this. There's opportunity cost that you lose if you decide to just stay at home or, go back to the truck or whatever. And so there's plenty of people that do that. I don't know if there necessarily needs to be people that come see all the wonderful sights, but isn't it great to be one of those people kind of thing? And so the other part of it was we survived the night. Nobody messed with us. And that's the ultimate way of saying, or explaining, if nothing gets you in Waipio Valley, you're probably pretty safe in your bedroom. And so I'm not going to say that it cured him 100%, but I definitely think that it helped a little bit. He still closes his window, like his curtains and stuff, which is fine. But he's not terrified of, like sleeping in his room, his own room, his own bed at night and stuff like that. So I think it was successful. Now, like I say, hindsight, there was one kid that went missing, last seen in YPO. Who knows what happened to him? At this point, he's been gone a long time. And so I don't want to give false hope. I hope that, if he is alive, that he's safe. But, odds are with that kind of terrain, if he didn't go somewhere else and he's living like a dual, like another life somewhere else, it probably outlook's not good. So there is a lot of danger in YPO, definitely a lot of danger at night, especially when you're ascending the what do you call it? Like I guess the cliff, when you're going up, well, down's not so bad because it's kind of a pay road, but when you're going up the other side on that really narrow trail, and especially if you're doing any piece of that, like in the dark, that's kind of dangerous. And so that's the only thing. Maybe I wouldn't do that part in the dark again. But like I say, we had lights and we played it pretty safe and made it back okay. And so I said all that to get to immediately launch into another story. I've taken my son with us on another excursion. This was like the whole family. Well, not the whole family, but it was me, my wife, my son, a friend from work, and then another friend. Just kind of like my best friend on the island. And so it was all of us, and we took a hike. This was not like a run. This was just a hike. I think it was like 18 miles down. Now I'm going to forget the name. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it was like this 18-mile hike and volcano, and then you have to descend, I think like 2 or 3,000 feet, and then out to the shore a couple miles, and then turn around back, ascend, 2 or 3,000 feet, and then there's another, I forget how many, like 5 miles or something to go once you get back up the ridge. But so we took him on that, and that's a fairly what's the word? Not complicated, but difficult hike especially for a kid. I mean, there were adults with us that were having trouble towards the end. And so when I take my son or anybody with me, I try not to take for granted like how difficult the experience may be for somebody that is not used to those kind of distances on that kind of terrain. And so it's not like a meat grinder. Like, I'm not trying to force anybody to like death march the whole way. So those two examples, I think those are like really the longest two distances we've ever gone together with my son. So the point, like bringing it all together, was he kind of seems like he's in a place right now where he needs to get out more. And I've had all these thoughts about, like I wish that he could see more. I wish he would come with me on these runs, and yada, yada, yada. He's gone on some hikes, so I know that he can go the distance, and his mind is pretty good. I don't know a lot of kids, but I definitely have run into some that I don't think they wouldn't make it without complaining, like as long as my son has. And so I think he will be okay, like mentally. And I think he can do this stuff physically. So what I've done is, his birthday's coming out next month, and instead of like getting a bunch of crazy stuff for him, which we don't really get like a bunch of crazy stuff every year, but we get him stuff that's really kind of like inconsequential for like life skills, I guess. And I think like now more than ever, it's pretty apparent that kids need life skills. They need to have, relationship building taught to them, and kind of learn how to do life from a responsible adult, I guess, if you want to call me a responsible adult. I know everything that you shouldn't do, and so I can work with him on that from that angle. Leverage my knowledge of everything that you shouldn't do. I've learned from experience, but yeah, and so I think it's important for him to spend time with me as his dad, and then it's definitely important for me to spend time with him and kind of show him some things that otherwise he would just be sitting in front of the computer, totally miss out on. It's such a shame because we live in a beautiful place, and for him to just be online or doing whatever. Of course, I want him to be happy, but I think he'll be happier out with me. So, point of all this is, got him some gear for his birthday, and so it's slowly trickling in. I ordered all of it online, and so we're starting to get some stuff. We got his shoes today, and a pair of shorts, and then we've got some other hydration flasks, and I think another pair of shorts and some other stuff coming in. And I'm going to start taking him with me, not on like huge excursions, but just kind of like start them off slow and gradually build. And so, I mean, who knows how this will all play out. I'm not naive enough, or I'm not naive. Like, I know it could go either way. He could hate it totally, and it would just kind of be over before it even begins. But I'm hoping that he will like it and, stick with it. I'm not like in a pathetic way trying to goat him as my running buddy. I realize that well, it's not so much that I realize, but like looking back, I've always thought that running with a group or running with other people would be cool. And so traditionally I've invited people to come along. And in reality, I don't remember many times in as long as I've been running that I've actually run with other people. That's not to say that when I did, it wasn't fun, because it definitely was. It was awesome. But for the most part, nearly 100% of the time, like 99.9999999% of the time, I'm always by myself, and it works just fine. I go at my pace, and I don't have to worry about anybody else, and so on and so forth. Or making small talk and this and that. It's just me. I'm out there grinding, and I get done. I go about my business. But like having someone else there does kind of complicate things if they're not on the same page. So if you're trying to like Sherpa someone, I'm talking about an adult, right? So like another adult, it it would be it wouldn't be too complicated, but it's like I'm on my wave, and then that person's on whatever wave they're on. So it's like competing abilities, competing desires. Like we both want different things out of this scenario. Like I just want to grind it out and get done. The other person may have like totally different designs on what they think running's about, and they may think it's a social experiment or something like that, whereas I'm not very verbose. Like you wouldn't know it from the way that I tell stories or narratives horribly and excessively wordy, but in my normal day-to-day life I'm not very verbose, and during running I'm not really trying to talk to a bunch of people, carry on a conversation, but yeah, I forgot what my point even was. Oh yeah, so having someone along, it's a little bit different dynamic for sure. I think having my son along would be good, but I'm not trying to goat him and make him my running buddy because nobody else wants to be. It's not anything like that. It's just I think it will be a good experience, some bonding, and then also I'm hoping that he will like it and maybe make it a part of his sort of upkeep of himself, like mentally, physically. I think running is great for doing that. It's a good way to blow off steam and kind of clear your head a little bit too. Sorry, I'm yawning a bunch. I've always, or I say I've always, when I first started, I had totally different ideas on what it was to be a runner, and kind of a lot of it was misguided just from marketing of fitness equipment, shoes, and stuff like that. Like, you think that it has to be one way and everything has to be shiny and new and latest and greatest, but sorry. Once you've been doing it a while, you kind of, sort of realize that it's about the actual act, the doing of the thing. So if you're running, then you're a runner, right? Doesn't matter if you have a bunch of equipment or even a GPS watch or whatever. Like, as long as you're doing it, you are a runner. Just keep on doing that thing, then you continue to be it. And so I think when I first started out, it was like, I gotta have these shoes, I gotta have this, whatever. I gotta take this supplement, or I'm not a runner, or whatever. Just like weird ideas and, weird dietary things, and trying to go too far, too fast. But yeah, so after several or many years, I don't know if you could say many, but after some years, it kind of like sets in, and just like it's a part of your routine, or it's become a part of my routine, and it's no big deal. But I would like to see the same thing for him, like just a good fallback, because all you need to do it is a pair of shoes and some shorts, and you can go to town. Sorry, I keep yawning, but I've explained several times before on this podcast about how running has helped me through some like kind of tough times, and it was an escape and a little bit of freedom in times where I really didn't have much of either. So yeah, my computer keeps shutting down. It bugs me because I think one time it shut down, or not shut down, but like the screensaver comes on. One time it came on and then it completely stopped recording, and I just kept on talking. So that was bad because I think I missed out on like 30 minutes of recording. But anyways, so I'm gonna take my son with me, or start taking him with me on some shorter runs, and then maybe kind of build him up and see how it goes. But he's already he was in running club for a year or two at his middle school, and he's done some little kind of cross country like events with peers his age from all different schools around the area, and he did well. I think he's maybe placed in some of those, and his mom enters him. Sometimes when I do marathons, there will be like other races of shorter distance, so like half marathon and then like a 5K. And so my wife will enter him in the 5K with herself, and then they will do those together. And so he's not, he's kind of an old hat with the running thing by now. So I think physically he's there. I think mentally he's mostly there. He's kind of like me. He's for the most part stoic. He gets a little bit flustered. It's a lot to process for a young mind when you're talking about like kind of longer distances, and just even the concept of not being at home within four walls, doing something familiar like watching a cartoon or something like that, being close to mom or or whatever. So that kind of sets in, but there's ways to manage that, and been able to do that before successfully. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm super excited. I hope that it will catch on with him, and I'll kind of have a partner. And I've kind of what's the word? Like romanticize it a bit. I can already see kind of like the progression of it, where like I become older and slower, right? And so he's slow right now because he's young and he's just developing. And so I can see him like, Dad, you're going too fast. This is too much distance, And I'm like, oh, it's okay. You can do it, whatever. And then like, there will be a time where, like I'm wearing down, I'm getting old, and it's sort of like he's built up enough. Now he's keeping up with me, and then eventually like I'll wear down completely and just be a slowpoke, and then he'll be in the place that I'm in now, and he'll be telling me to catch up, And so these are things that I've thought about, and I'm hopeful. I'm ready for that day. I'm excited for him if that happens. I want that. It'll suck for me to get old and be slow, but if the fact that I would have made it that long to even see that day is a positive thought to me. But yeah, so that's my hopes for it. My hope is to become disabled and kind of fade into to being elderly, while my son outperforms me in every way and does way better with running than I ever did. So, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. So, other news, my wife was kind enough to surprise me. Actually, my wife and my son both were kind enough to surprise me for Father's Day with a new pair of shoes. And so they got me Ultras, and they got me the Olympus, and I don't know what number they are. I think it's 3.0 or 3.5, or I don't know. But so it's cool. I've been running in the temps, I believe they're called temps. And so after taking in the audiobook for, no, I can't remember, Born to Run. Sorry, how can I forget that? After taking in the audiobook, I was a little bit convinced by their argument in that book that a lot of like the wear suggestions that shoe manufacturers put out is probably not very factual. So like most manufacturers will say between 300 and 500 miles you should replace your shoes, right? But there were examples in the book Born to Run where people ran with way more than that, like thousands of miles on a pair of shoes before they replaced them. So I've already got a pile outside, and the reason that I have replaced them kind of like two or three pairs a year is because of my knee. Like I was telling you earlier, I've had kind of crappy knee since I was in the military, and it kind of like comes and goes. But as a preventative measure, just based on like probably some marketing thought that was pressed into me. I thought that I should change shoes more often, and that would in turn keep my joints healthy and keep me from becoming injured. And so, sorry, I got a little bit of a sore throat, but yeah. So I had been changing shoes, like or getting a new pair, like 2 or 3 times a year. And so I've got a pile outside. I don't know really what to do with them. I hate to throw them away because they are still technically, intact. And I think that, quite honestly, I could probably get some more miles out of a few pairs of those shoes just based off of the stuff that was in Born to Run. I don't think I've got anywhere near 1,000 miles on any of those pairs of shoes. But anyway, why am I going into all this? I don't know. The current pair that I am wearing are Temps, and I just plan to just run those down basically until they got holes in the bottom. And I'm gonna do a little experiment. I'm not gonna replace them with a new pair. And so that's kind of my idea. So I got these shoes for Father's Day, and it's still awesome to have them, because what I'm going to do with them is I have another pair outside that I've in the pile. It lives outside. Sorry, I should clarify. I wore those in the 100-mile ultra that I did last year, and I think a couple other ultras maybe last year. Not sure. I don't quite remember the timeline on those, but those have got a lot of miles on them. They're visibly worn on the bottom, but I could probably still wear them anyway. But the new ones that I got, I'm going to maybe do a couple of break-in runs on them, and then maybe like wear them every now and then. But I'm going to save them for the next time that I do kind of a longer ultra, like 50 mile or 100 mile. If I do that again, I'm going to save those for that application. And then in the meantime, I'm just going to stick with the Temps, because the Temps are a little bit more aggressive tread, and I like that. And then there's another one, I forget what it's called, but King Mountain. Yeah, King Mountain has a great tread pattern, and it's Vibram, so it's ultra grippy. And I like those shoes for like day to day, and even for like a 50K, like a 31 mile ultra marathon. Those are fine. Yeah, I've never needed, as much cushion as the Olympus has in kind of those lesser distances, but definitely the Olympus will be great for like 100 miler and 50 miler, stuff like that. Sorry, I'm yawning again. So those are kind of like the top things going on for me right now. Beach Road. How could I do one of these podcasts and not talk about Beach Road? It's been pretty decent the last couple of weeks. I've been seeing a lot more mongoose. I think that's the plural. The singular and plural. Mongoose is mongoose. I don't think it's mongoose, but I could be wrong. But I've been seeing a lot of mongoose, and so, alive and dead, which is cool. I like to, what do you call it? Like, anthropomorphize everything. So, I just call him Mongoose Mike, and so all of their names are Mongoose Mike. So every time I see one, it's like, "What's up, Mongoose Mike?" Um, yeah. So I've been seeing a lot of those. Seen a fair amount of pigs in the last couple of weeks too, which is cool. As long as they're not running after me, I'm good with them. I like to see them. It's good to be reminded that like it's one thing to be kind of in the middle of a jungle, whatever, but then you see like, oh, there's a wild pig or whatever. It makes it more real, makes it better somehow. Uh, Speaking of animals, kind of getting off of Beach Road for a minute, I've been seeing sheep up at power lines, which is it's not like a news flash. People go up there to hunt, so it's kind of it's kind of a place you would expect to see game. But I've had pretty good luck just in general up around power lines and Pu'o'o, which connects up to power lines, in seeing sheep and goats up in that area. But last weekend, I think on Sunday, I went to power lines and I got out to kind of the point where I was going to turn around and then come back, where Pu'o joins up with Power Lines Trail. And there were 3 pretty big ewes, female deer. I think they were all female, but they were pretty chunky. They were all eating grass, and I tried to get my phone out and take a picture of them, but by the time I got it out, they had spotted me, and then before I could get a picture in, they had already bolted. But that was pretty cool to see. Beach Road, I'm trying to think like cool things that I've seen on Beach Road in the last few weeks. It always, I get on this recording and then I can't remember anything. So it's been pretty quiet though, like just nice. The humidity was crazy today. It was like 81% humidity, and I think it was like about 80 degrees outside. So I remember thinking that it kind of felt like if I was in a cold place with a sweater on, like a really warm sweater, a wool sweater, and right next to a fireplace. That was how I was feeling, except I was I was running on a road with no shirt on in Hawaii, so it just didn't make sense that it was that hot and humid for me. But so at this point, I'm starting to get sleepy, and I think that I'm going to start trailing off and probably not making a lot of sense, or probably making less sense than I have been making with my stories and stuff. I'm trying to dig like really deep because I wanted to tell some cool stuff that's happened on Beach Road, but I just can't. Oh, yeah. One thing I wanted to mention. Last time, I think I had talked about the dogs that were chasing after me. At a certain point, there's a certain house. I've never seen the house. I can only see the driveway. It's covered in, jungle or whatever. You can't see up to the house. But these dogs come down from time to time and they get after me. And so, like, I guess it was the day before last, was out, and I'm going past this house, and these dogs, they all run out. I mean, they were vicious. It was like an episode of The Walking Dead. And so all of these dogs at this house, they're like small. They're smaller dogs, and they look young. Like, if that makes any sense. Like, they don't look like they're super old dogs. Like, the coloration and stuff, they're all light colored, so maybe that's what it is. But I don't see like the grayish face that you would expect to see in like an older dog. But all of them have like that little translucent glaze over their eyes, so it looks like they're all blind. I'm not sure if they got cataracts or if it's a diet thing or what's going on, but all of them may be visually impaired. So I've kind of coined them. What did I coin them as? The bad boy something of Beach Road. Yeah, I can't remember anything right now. Yeah, something like that. The bad boys of Beach Road. The blind bad boys of Beach Road is what it was. And so that's what I call them. They're the blind bad boys of Beach Road. And so I don't know how they know it's me, but they do. And if they're around and I'm running past, they come out, and I mean, they are vicious. So they do this thing where, like, of course they're all barking and making noise, but they kind of like surround me on like one side, so like a half circle of about 4 or 5 dogs, and then like they sort of like lunge every now and then. It's super startling. It's not scary because they're not big dogs, but it is kind of concerning, disturbing, I guess. But anyways, because I'm the kind of person, like, I just want to talk to them, pet them, whatever, and then be on my way. But there's just no talking to these boys or petting them. They're bad to the bone. But yeah, nothing else too crazy. Trying to think, have I seen anything? I've only been running like 5 miles for like this week and last weekend. I think I've skipped 2 days this week, so I've been doing a horrible job of even getting out to Beach Road. But yeah, nothing else is really sticking out in my mind. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up for today, and then maybe if I'm feeling chatty, I'll do another one this weekend. But I got like so much school stuff I've got to work on and everything else. So who knows? But yeah, I don't think there's anything else really crazy to tell. So until next time, I'm trying to figure out, do I really want to end this right here? I think so. I think it's time for me to go to sleep. But yeah, so thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. I'll do another episode at some point. Maybe this weekend. Maybe it'll be during the week or next weekend. Who knows? But until then, take care of yourselves. Be nice to each other. Stay safe. And yeah, fingers crossed for humanity. Like all the way around. And just keep on keeping on. But yeah, until next time, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Take care.